Knowing David Benioff wrote the script, I think I was just excited to read it at first, and I had known of the story, the original screenplay, or the original movie, and then I read it and I thought it was beautifully done, just enough sort of translated into an American world, and in a way that I didn't think was possible after seeing the original movie. And the character in particular of Tommy Cahill, who I play, was fantastic and just so well written, and David Benioff's brilliant. In a way, I think that Tommy could be considered very different from how I might think of myself, but in fact, I think searching for love and searching for approval, I think we all are, dealing with on usually a daily basis, and he just happens to express it in a different way. But yeah, there are a lot of similarities. Toby plays my brother. I would say more I play his brother, just because he is the older brother, and in a sense always the person that I'm trying to kind of keep up with in the story. And also, honestly, it's always a pleasure to have any type of love story with Natalie Portman. So that really did come easily. The relation, Natalie plays Grace, and the name kind of says it all in a way, even if it's an ideal, for a woman. And she is kind of, in my opinion, drawn to Tommy, even though she begins the story hating him and is drawn to him out of her own grief and her love for her husband. And a kind of connection, I think, even if it's genetic, some kind of something, a similar look or smell or whatever it is drawn to him. And somehow in sort of this weird, opposites attract in a moment of pain. These two people come together. And she is bouncing two children and, trying to keep herself together at the same time in the story. I think Natalie does a beautiful job with that. I think Tommy in particular has great love for his brother, and just doesn't know really how to express it. And I think that is, I made a decision, and it's never in the movie really, but I made a decision that he had some learning disabilities, and he was always kind of struggling to keep up with his brother in one way or another. And so he looked to him, and their father, Hank, never gave them the support that they wanted, and so I think Tommy looked to Sam for that. So when Sam goes away at the very beginning of the movie, I think in particular there's a very specific scene at the door when Tommy walks away and he just says, "Take care of yourself," and I think it could be thought of as a very little thing, but to me in particular, and I think to Tommy, it meant the world, because their relationship is in the movie very, they're very close, so they just don't have the easiest way of communicating with each other. Sam Shepard plays Hank, and he is, seeing as we shot this during the writer's strike, he was a nice kind of weapon in the back of our pockets in terms of improvisation, because he didn't write anything, but his mind works like a writer, so there was, a lot of great fill-ins and a lot of great structural work without having to write anything down, done just by him being there. He's a silent actor, I think, which is a great irony because he's a writer. But he is the ultimate kind of silent actor. And within one scene, there are very many scenes where he says very little, and he's just the center of the scene. I think that Tommy is obviously everything that Hank doesn't want one of his sons to be, and I think that Hank is everything that Tommy is embarrassed of in a way in a father. And I think the two of them really they bump heads as a result of that. I made the movie Brothers because of Jim Sheridan. I wanted to make this movie because he was making the movie. To work with Jim Sheridan, the work that he's done in his lifetime so far is just extraordinary. So as plain and simple, I'm David Benioff's script and Jim Sheridan directing it that was it. Well, Jim from the very beginning wanted a really intimate relationship. I only speak for myself with me. I saw once we all got into rehearsals together that he had made a relationship with all of the actors, very, very intimate relationships with them. You know, he would call me up if he knew if he was in New York City and I was in New York City before we started shooting, he'd be like, "Oh, Jake, it's Jim. I just woke up. It's 2 o'clock in the afternoon, and do you want to get together?" And then we'd get together, and we would spit ideas back and forth at each other, and the whole process was always like that. And you know, the thing with Jim is, we rehearsed for 2 weeks before we started shooting. We sat in a room. We all threw around our ideas, and then even on set, it was continuously changing. It was I mean, ephemeral is the perfect word for a Jim Sheridan set, because it was literally like there is never anything that stays solid within, you know, a day's work. Her film is brilliant. I mean, it's a pretty bold move for Jim Sheridan to take on, you know, an already brilliant film. What I was taken by, what I took from that movie was just the storyline, how it was woven was brilliant. I mean, somehow you loved all 3 characters, regardless of whatever they did to each other, you know, and that is, you know, feeling like you understood why they did that is a hard thing to pull off in a story like this, and I was very moved by it. Her movie was centered around the woman in the movie, and in this movie, I think it's really about the family. So it's just a different point of view. So really, it's coming from her point of view, I think, as a female director, and Jim Sheridan's point of view coming from, you know, his movies really being about family. That there's room for redemption in anything, and pretty much redemption exists in family. That is what family is for. And forgiveness is there are very few places in the world where you learn forgiveness more often than in your family. And you're faced with it every day, and you have an opportunity to forgive, and it's just that deep love. And I think, you know, that kind of microcosm of a family should be brought out into the world, you know, and people who learn how to do that within the family know how to do it in the world. And those who don't know how to do it, forgive, and care and love for each other, don't know how to do it in the world. And it doesn't mean you can't learn how to in the world, but it's the first chance you get is in family.